Hello and welcome to Sovereign RPG. I am Sovereign, and today we're just going to go over some of the AMA questions and answers that the devs did today. I've cherry picked some of the ones for you. There was a lot of the same questions being asked, and some questions might not be as important as others. There are some big things in here, and there are some smaller things, and there are some absolutely massive changes. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already for your one-stop shop for EVE Echoes. So after this intro, we'll go into the actual questions.
Warp drive active.
First up, we have answers for any cloud. So they asked if there's any plans on making bookmarks and mining drones. Bookmarks are in the plan, but there are no plans for mining drones. Now that hasn't changed, that's been the same for a good long while. And they also asked if interdiction ships and spheres will come on the 13th. But they won't, they'll be coming in late October, so don't be looking forward to being able to set up your bubble camps on gates until late October. It won't be on the 13th. This is quite a big one because I thought this would be a bug and it would have been fixed, but it seems that it's actually not a bug, and that is where you can hide a Kovox ship inside of a belt or inside of a base so the base can't level. You can effectively shut down an entire system if you have fleets of Kovox ships by just sticking them in the base, and after you wipe the bases out, you stick them in at level 1 and those bases can never level. And the devs have said there will be no adjustment in this update. So next up we have asset safety. This is where if your personal station gets blown up, your items will be moved to the nearest ITC. Now, we were told before that this was already implemented, but it seems there is not an asset safety system in place at this moment in time. But I don't know if he answered the question not knowing what the question actually meant, because he says there's no plans to allow players to improve the security of the Corp hangar. So I don't know whether that's talking about people being able to steal from Corp hangars, if there's other options going to be added there. I don't exactly know what this answer is. But if I'm reading it as he's understanding the question, there currently isn't an asset safety in place. Now we know interdictors will be coming out, and they will be T6 and T9, and that's for the destroyers. You're looking at your thrashers and you're looking at your thrashers and stuff like that in the destroyer line with the T6 and T9. Now we have the heavy interdictors in T8 and T10. There'll be 16 ships in total. There'll be 1 or 2 for each faction, so you can sort of pick a ship that you like the look of. But I'm pretty sure that thrashers will be the #1 interdiction ship as it is in EVE Online because of the speed bonuses and how fast they go, etc. It's really good ship. Now the heavy interdictors will be your Malas and your other ships like that. They do have a different type of heavy interdictors, so like there's a second tier in EVE Online, but I don't think it will be quite like that. Next up is another big one. We have Mordu's Legion ships, and any time when we will get them. It's in the plan, and they do have a new type of encounter. It's under considering, including loyalty point exchange. Now loyalty point exchange is when you gather loyalty points for doing encounters, or which will probably be encounters in EVE Echoes. In EVE Online, it's when you do missions, and when you do things like incursions and stuff, you get loyalty points, and you go to a station that has an NPC that will trade LP for modules or rig BPs or ship BPs, like Sisters of Eve stuff in EVE Online, that sort of thing. And that will be coming in next year, which I'm not looking forward to because the Mordu's Legion ships are absolutely disgusting. There definitely will need to be some changes to balance them before they are released. Or if they release them fully the way they are, and then they'll see that how broken they are with instant missile application, which is insane. And they've also asked if they can implement a way for people in the system to know when the cosmic anomaly base is under attack. For me, under a lore standpoint, this shouldn't be a thing because it's a pirate base. Why would they warn you and tell you that they're under attack? That makes no sense to me. But for like a functional type thing, this is really good for Corps to be able to know if their base is under attack, and they may add that function in the sovereignty system. So it seems like they have the function there, but they're not saying whether they are going to implement it or not. So next up we have a few questions about drones, because there's obviously been some issues there. They're really good in PvE, but at the moment there's a bug in PvP where you can't, if your drones get killed, you can't bring out another drone because of a sort of weapon timer, which is actually quite insane. So what changes will be made to the drone UI to make them viable in PvP? Not being able to replace a destroyed drone during PvP because of the weapons timer is unfairly crippling. They said they will fix it within 1 month, so that's coming. Drones will be fixed in PvP. The Gilas will become much more viable in a PvP setting. Will we be able to swap drones from the bay by dragging and dropping on the overview, similar to how we recall drones, instead of having to use the menus and fitting screen? The UI designers are studying it, and dragging is one of the plans for changing ammo, but they will not be in the near future, so ammo is not going to be coming for a good long time. We'll get a clearer display of drone EHP, shields, armor, structure to help us avoid letting them get destroyed. They are saying they're going to improve it. I'm not sure how they would improve it unless they sort of have the watch list that they have in fleets, but it's still very small and there's not much real estate on the UI as it is currently. Will drones be seeded into loot drops from pirates in either normal anomalies or Scout Inquisitor variants? They're prohibitively expensive because of scarcity, more so than any other weapon. That is not true. Missiles are ridiculously, stupidly expensive, and the drones right now are actually not that bad. You get a stupid amount of drones for the BPs themselves. Drone prices have dropped significantly. I can't even sell them from the ones that I farm now because they're just like worth a couple of $100,000 for a blueprint. Granted, the cost of the actual minerals and the PI needed to make drones are still quite high. That could see some balance changes, hopefully. They said in November they will be introducing storyline drones via the encounter rewards. Now, there's going to be a couple of updates during this AMA that will tell you and show you that the encounter rewards are going to be changing. I don't know if the boxes will be updated for the new loot or if they'll add new boxes. But what I'm currently doing in preparation for the multiple modules that will be coming into the storyline encounter missions, I am stacking the tier 10 boxes, the big boys, the soldiers. I'm stacking those boxes. I've got as many as I can. I'm doing 5-6 bad hair days a day, and I'm going to stack them all until the update, and then I'm just going to bam, get all of those modules straight out there. Get onto the market, sell them for a lot, or give them to the Corp mates. We'll see how it goes. Will faction drones be seeded into any loot drops as well? Drones are the only weapon variant without a faction option, again crippling drone boats as viable in PvP. Drone boats are actually really viable in PvP depending on how you use them. Their application is absolutely insane. The activation time on the drones are insane, allowing for more smashing hit. They are still very viable in PvP. A lot of people don't use them because the cost of the drones to replace, but they are very viable. They can do a lot of damage. They are very good. There are still some weapon systems that are better. Lasers, for instance, with instant application and their tracking bonuses, which later on in one of the questions I found completely confusing, but we'll go through that in a second. The faction ones are not to be added in the near future. Now, this is probably because the items and modules and stuff that drops off of the rats, they actually get used by the rats themselves. So I don't know if there's an issue there with like sticking them in the cargo hold or whatever for a different sort of loot ferry type drop. But we'll see how that goes in the future. The next one we have is on spheres and cargo holds and the interdiction bubbles. Now, we know what the tier ships are because we've already answered that one. Now, the bubble that gets dropped by the destroyers, the interdiction destroyers, they have 120-second uptime. So it's going to be a warp in, drop a bubble, no one can warp out. You either warp out and your fleet warps in, or you sit there depending on what you're actually fighting. That's still good. That's the same as EVE Online pretty much. It's okay with me. And they do require fuel, which is another thing that could be added in there, so you won't have every Tom, Dick and Harry running around. But fuel is very cheap right now, massively cheap, especially if you're going for things like ionic solutions. And now we have warp stabilizers are supposed to be balanced as such that your signature radius is debuffed and thus easier to target. Is this going to be more balanced in the future, and if so, when? Warp stabilizer is balanced by reducing scan resolution, which I thought was always the case. I didn't even read it as like your signature radius gets bigger. It's always just been you can't target quicker, which is why it helps against PvP ships that fit these warp stabs. Now, here's the thing that I didn't quite understand, because in my opinion, lasers are probably one of the most powerful weapon systems in the game right now due to their tracking is insane on pulses. Their damage is very good. It's instant application. There's no wait time from activation to damage. It just instantly applies. And they have said here that lasers will be reinforced in tracking. I don't know how lasers can get any better in tracking. They probably have some of the best tracking in the game currently. They are very underrated, very powerful weapon system. It confuses the hell out of me that they would be buffing the tracking on them, but there might be something there that I'm not seeing. And the next question is, EVE Echo skills expand to as many as there are in EO, or what we see is what we get. The skills will be expanded when new systems release. So you'll be having, when the exploration comes out, you'll get the archaeology again, you'll get the scanning, you'll get blah, 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 which will be added into there. You're probably going to have all the skills for the interdiction sphere launchers. I don't know if they'll be incorporated into the actual electronic warfare skills. That might be a thing, but more than likely they're probably going to add a new skill for that. And then there's the official market API for you moguls out there. They are beginning to develop the API, but this will be firstly only for kill mails. So there'll be no more, we killed more ships than you. No, we killed more ships than you. No, we killed more ships than you. You can just literally have it all there. You can count it all up. It'll be open to the public. And then everyone can go, haha, you lost. End of story. Now, how you lose in that front is like obviously up to perception. It could be ISK value lost. It could be a complete wipe of the fleet. There's many different ways you can look at winning. I personally just go by how many ships are killed. I don't really care about the ISK value, but that really depends on the people who are actually looking at the kill mails. So here's some more questions on the warp disruption field generators. They consume fuel. Yes. Will the interdiction sphere launchers consume fuel? Yes. Will warp disruption field generators be available as NPC purchase BPCs or as item drops or as BPs? They will be BP drops likely in scouts or inquisitors. Same with interdiction sphere launchers. They'll come out of inquisitors and scouts most likely. Will warp scramblers be available as NPC purchase BPs? Blah, blah, blah. They will be coming out of item drops. So they will be in storyline encounter boxes and dropped off NPCs, which will make which will make those warp disruptor rats inside of certain special anomalies warp straight up to you with a nice big fat 4 strength warped scrambler, which would be nice for some people, not so nice for others. Now this is a big one for me because obviously we do love a bombing run. We do love using our stealth bombers. They're very good, very viable for small teams fighting against larger teams. It's just really perfect for us, and we are going to get bombs in a future plan, which is absolutely amazing. A fleet of 30 bombers could take out a fleet of 300 Thrasher 2s, which will be sad for some of our enemies, but we'll see how that goes and how they implement those bombs. They asked if they're going to be adding high slots to destroyers. There are no plans to add high slots, so one of your weapons will be taken out by the interdiction sphere launcher, which should be a thing. There should be a downside to having such a powerful tool on your arsenal. So the drones randomly dropping target and not attacking the next target will be fixed in the next update. Is there a plan for Corp insuring of ships the way EVE Online did? There is a plan, but it's not the same. So Corps will be able to have a system where if you lose a ship and you have paid insurance into it, you'll be able to get a ship back. They don't know how the actual thing will work right now. Maybe it will come off how many ships are in the hangar. If you have the ship in the hangar, the insurance is paid out and you get the ship, or you pay into the insurance monthly, which would be quite cool. And then the Corp pays out the kill mail. That'll be quite an interesting thing. We'll see how that goes. And they will not add more Corp hangars. I cannot stress enough how much we need more Corp hangars. 4 Corp hangars is ridiculously low, especially since you have the security on the Corp hangars across every single office that you have in space. It is actually ridiculous that they do not add more, or at least add options for security to be changed in individual Corp offices. For all of you miners out there, they'll be adding the option to be able to condense ore and compress ore. That means that you'll be able to take a certain amount of normal ore and compress 10 times the amount of ore into a single compressed ore, which will make it much easier for traveling, bringing your ore to Jita to sell or to Amar to sell, etc, etc. It would be a really good thing for us to be able to move our assets or our excess from our Corp or buyback system, which would be really nice. Now this is a big one and a confusing one for me, and like they're saying will SOV work the same with TCU units. TCU units, you put 1 TCU in each system. Once that TCU is up and running, that system is then run by the Corp, but they're saying there are no individual TCUs. Corp Citadels has the function of the TCU. Now if we have to build a Corp Citadel in every single system to have it under sovereignty control, that is going to be a massive undertaking for a lot of Corps. Can you imagine Corps like Genesis, who are in Esoteria, having to put a Corp Citadel in every single system in Esoteria? Can you imagine the Corp running Delve? How many resources that would take to start spreading out? Now, it's a good thing for smaller Corps to be able to put their one station in there, and it might be a deterrent for bigger alliances to push further than their hands can grasp, which will be quite sad to see, because I'd like to see some of the bigger alliances having bigger regions, but we'll see how that goes in there. That's not a good option for me, having a Corp Citadel in each. Now if the Corp Citadel takes up that cluster, that'll be okay. because you can have maybe 10 in a region, for example. That won't be so bad. But if you have to put one in every single system, that's going to be insane. They're going to be adding faction strip miners for you miners out there. It will be launched together with the LP store, so you'll be like gaining your LP from doing missions and stuff, and then you can trade those in for faction strip miners. And there also may be an option for you to specifically target specific asteroids and specific ores with the strip miners, and there are plans for it, and maybe it will be released with the script. And that's all we have for today's AMA. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope this helped you to understand what's coming in future patches. There are some other questions that I've sent to Nina, who's speaking to Exile, and there will be questions, specific questions answered that we would like answered, and see if they can do that for us. This is your one-stop shop for EVE Echoes. Fly safe and avoid local chat scams.